conclude the conference, or not conclude the conference, but the speaking parts of it, with a 10 to 15 minute talk about the 40-year history of the SCBWI. I'm going to talk really, really fast. Actually, I'm going to, since I've been here, I've been thinking about this a lot, and the processes that put me, and of course all of you, in this room today. And I'm reminded of a quote that I saw in a New Yorker article a number of years ago that really tells the story of the start of the SCBWI. And it was part of a fiction article, but it really has stuck with me, and it's that there is no tedium like your 20s, but actually you're hurtling toward your future based on a few chance encounters and some scraps of dreams. And that's certainly how the SCBWI came to be. I had graduated from UCLA with a degree in film and gone back and got another degree in journalism, and was kind of heading for probably some kind of a career in magazine journalism, when I saw an ad for a writer to write a reading series for children. This was in 1970, I think. And I ended up working for 5 years for this company, producing a major reading program for the U.S. market. Along with Lynn Oliver, the executive director of the SCBWI, we wrote almost 250 books over 5 years. But about 6 months into this, we decided, since we were going to be educating the next generation of Americans, we ought to at least learn something about children's books. So we looked around for an organization to join, such as an SCBW, and discovered there was organizations for the Dog Writers of America, the Cat Writers of America, Space Writers of America, Plumbers of America. There was everything, but there was nothing for children's book writers. And so we thought, maybe why join something when you can be a president and an executive director of it? So we took out an ad in Writer's Digest magazine, drove all the way down to Malibu, California, which sounded like a very literary destination, and rented a post office box, and which lasted also for about 6 months because the ride was horrible, and so we ended up moving it to Palms. But in the first week, 5 people joined. And I can remember Lynn and I sitting in our offices. We were running this out of, the business that we were working for. We were looking at the checks and deciding, well, we hadn't looked that far ahead when we decided to take out the ad that somebody might actually join. So we looked at the checks and thought, okay, well, we have 2 choices here. We can either send these checks back and say, sorry, we didn't know what we were doing, or we could put out a newsletter, our first bulletin, and probably put on something like a conference. And we did. We went ahead and put out the first bulletin, which was 4 pages, half of which we made up. We filled it with beautiful illustrations we'd cut out of magazines, illustrations by people like Maurice Sendak and Garth Williams. That was beautiful. Tommy DePaola was beautiful. Jane Yolen, one of our first members, said, if you don't quit that immediately, stealing these people's art without compensating them, I'm dropping out. We also didn't know, by the end of our first year, we had about 50 members, and we had not learned the trick of, we put all the bulletins went in their individual envelopes. We didn't know the trick of wetting a paper towel to wet all the envelopes at the same time, so we licked them all for every member, which was fairly difficult, but we kept at it. So we didn't know a number of things when we started this organization. One thing we didn't know was that children's books were about to transform itself from a small part of publishing to a large and visible presence, and that it would attract top authors and artists. And that we, although we didn't realize at the time, were going to help educate those creators. We didn't realize that so many people that were already active in children's books, some of the great authors and illustrators of the time, were going to, without question, lend their help to this new organization they knew nothing about, but because they had been looking for something like this, was that as Jane Yolen said, we'll give you guys a chance. And we certainly didn't know that we were going to have people, volunteers, who were going to step forward around the world and help us achieve our goals. These people were not only the authors and the illustrators who endorsed and guided us, but they were creative people everywhere who volunteered their time to lead local chapters. We could not have succeeded without volunteers. Initially, there were people throughout the US, then mainly in English-speaking countries, spread by expatriates who had been SCBWI members in the US and then had moved to other countries. Early on, we had members in Canada, France, here in the UK, and now we're in 30 different countries around the world, including Mongolia, India, South Africa, Australia, Mexico, Israel, the Philippines, and Japan, among many others. For me, the international nature of the organization is the most exciting because we have discovered that, like in the US in the 70s, most countries never had a children's book organization for writers and illustrators. Often, if they had anything at all, there was a part of like an author's guild or something, and the children's book writers were treated like sort of the poor stepchildren. All of you who are involved in this organization know there is nothing like this community. Lynn Oliver calls us a tribe, and that we find is really true. We're people who unselfishly and gladly help their fellow creators learn and succeed in this field. It is why for me it was such a pleasure to come here this weekend to help celebrate what is one of the most wonderful chapters we have, and one with a boundless future ahead of it. So I come here to celebrate with you and to thank the leadership, Natasha, Benjamin, so many others over the years who have made this group possible. People who took time from their own writing, illustrating, and careers to give of their expertise, their enthusiasm, the creative spirit to the SCBWI, to its membership, and to the world of children's books, and ultimately to children everywhere. There's nothing greater, I think, than to be part of something that changes people's lives. And this chapter and this leadership has changed many, including, of course, the most important constituency of all, children themselves. So here we are, as was the case 40 years ago. Children's books are at the crest of a new wave, one powered by a technological revolution. How this wave will proceed, where it will break, and how it will unroll, we can't really predict. But I am confident that this is not the end of children's books as we know them, but the opening of a new and exciting opportunities for all of us. And I'm confident, too, that if the ingenuity, creative drive, and enthusiasm of this chapter over the last 10 years is an omen of anything, it is that these are opportunities that will be enthusiastically embraced by the British SCBWI, and the results are sure to be just as amazing going forward as they have been for the last 10 years. So from all of us, I bring you greetings from everybody in the national office and from SCBWI around the world. Happy 10th anniversary, and I hope to be back in 10 more years for your 20th as well. Thank you.